Nutrition during the first 1000 days plays a major role in the health of both mother and child. The 270 days of pregnancy and the first 2 years of the baby's life makes it a total of 1000 days of shaping the future. Nutrition during these 1000 days lays the foundation for a healthier and smarter generation. Kavita, you've been looking kind of lost and worried over the last few days. Any issues? Yes. I'm a bit worried actually. You know, Ravi from the purchase section? He's barely 30 and is so fat and has already been diagnosed with high diabetes. Yeah, that's so sad. And Mr. Mehta, our young VP, he's recently had a stroke and he's not even 35. That's true. He has always been so fat and stressed out. But tell me, why are you so worried about the world? Actually, when I see them, I realize obesity, diabetes and heart-related issues are mushrooming all over. In a recent newspaper article, I found that in the near future, India is all set to become a big hub for such ailments, with almost all households getting affected. So, I'm really worried about my little one. Huh? Your kid? But he's barely a few months old. I'm concerned on how to protect my little angel against all such future health issues. I recently read in a health magazine that the first 2 years of a child's life lasts forever, and appropriate nutrition is important for their future health. Oh, I see. Your child's already a little overweight. You should look at his diet seriously. What do I do? I fed him myself for the first 2 months, and then due to pressure at work, I had to put him on other alternatives like cow's milk. What else can I do? Well, Kavita, that exactly might be your problem there. Meaning? Meaning cow's milk or otherwise? You should always consult a doctor before choosing the right alternative for your child.
That was Kavita, a worried mom. And no wonder she would be lost in her thoughts. I get a lot of anxious parents like Kavita who feel that they are doing the right thing, but on the contrary are actually unaware about a lot of critical issues which have adverse as well as long-term impact on child health. But before we proceed, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Soumitra Datta. I'm a consultant for neonates and children, and I practice extensively in Kolkata. And today, we'll be discussing how nutrition and alternative feeds given to children can impact long-term health in infants. Let's start with some startling facts. The highest number of deaths due to diabetes occurs in Asia. And it's no surprise that India contributes to most of those deaths. Let's look at the world. In 2013, China had a massive 98.4 million people between 20 to 79 years suffering from diabetes. India had about 65.1 million, but surprisingly, USA came a distant third with 24.4 million of such people in this age group. Let's look at obesity. Obesity has a direct link with other diseases which appear later on in life, and it seriously interferes with the mortality and morbidity. Most of these diseases are from food, lifestyles, and certain complex genetic influences which usher in diseases like diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, coronary artery and cerebrovascular diseases. Thus, these risk factors contribute to the development of the spectrum of diseases, and mind you, they are coined brilliantly with a new word. We call it the metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is the direct consequence of insulin resistance in one's body, and it results in a cluster of effects where the triglycerides, the blood sugar, the blood pressure levels go up, and the HDL cholesterol levels decrease. Resultantly, obesity starts creeping in, thus increasing the serious risk of those diseases. Let's look at it from a different angle. The seeds of the metabolic syndrome that we talked about and its components are actually sown in early childhood. In this context, we should talk about the first 1,000 days of a child's life. Recent science has revealed that many aspects of long-term health are actually programmed during these 1,000 days, including the likes of endocrine, metabolic, digestive, excretion, and even the immune systems. In fact, to further realize how critical this window of 1,000 days is, let us look and think also how certain neglected aspects during this phase and this stage might turn into major health risks at later stages of childhood and adult life. Let us try to understand and how it modifies and changes the expression of a gene or phenotype. We all know for sure that we inherit a sequence of genes or genotype. But it has been discovered that certain environmental stimuli like nutrition, hormonal presence or absence, toxins, insults, etc., through complex epigenetic processes like chromatin modifications, DNA methylation, histone modifications, they can impact the expression of these genes. Now, these chemical changes can switch off the expression of a gene and consequently affect the phenotypic expression of the individual. Firstly, it's a genetic imprint that builds you the way you are supposed to be. Secondly, it's your lifestyle, the way you eat, the way you exercise, the way you live your life. But there is a third element as well, a newly discovered phenomenon called early programming has come over. So now that we realize the criticality of this metabolic programming during the first 1,000 days, as I said, of life, let's specifically look at how diets can influence the same during the first 2 years of life. Protein intake definitely influences obesity in later life. Protein quality is defined by two critical parameters: the whey-casein ratio and amino acid profile. Milk proteins also contain the whey as well as the casein. Now, whey is the liquid which remains after the milk has been curdled and strained, and casein is the gel-forming protein of curd which we find abundantly in cow milk. And when we look at the quality parameters of protein, interestingly, whey scores far more than casein. Whey has a high protein efficiency ratio of 3.2 as compared to barely 2.5 for casein. And finally, the net protein utilization in whey is also a lot higher at about 91% as compared to barely 61% for casein. This means that any milk that contains more whey and lesser casein should be considered as healthier option, especially from the perspective of long-term health during later life, as we had talked about. Proteins contain insulin-releasing amino acids like valine, leucine, isoleucine and threonine that stimulate the secretion of insulin and thereby increasing the levels of insulin and insulin-like growth factor, as we had said, and that will result in disproportionate weight gain in early in life and of course increased adipogenetic activity. A strong correlation of growth has also been found with insulin-like growth factor 1. Insulin-like growth factor 1 is structurally and functionally similar to insulin and plays a major role in the regulation of postnatal growth. While insulin is a hormone which is produced by the beta cells of the pancreas, insulin like growth factor 1 is a hormone similar to insulin. Insulin decreases the satiety levels of a child, making it constantly hungry, and in this process increasing the quantum of food intake. On the other hand, insulin like growth factor 1 increases adipogenesis. Adipogenesis is the formation of fat cells which is observed in the fetal life as well as in the early postnatal life. So put together, both insulin as well as insulin like growth factor 1 account for excessive weight gain, leading to risk of obesity in later life. Now, with that in mind, now let's come to the gold standard of protein quality. And that's nothing else but mother's milk. Breast milk is indeed the gold standard when it comes to gauging protein quality. But ever wondered, why is it so? Let's explore. As compared to cow's milk, breast milk contains lesser amount of casein and more whey. While cow's milk has a whey to casein ratio of 20 to 80, mother's milk actually has a whey casein ratio of 60 to 40. That's huge difference in protein quality. Now, let us have a look at the amino acids profile for the two. While mother's milk has a higher level of tryptophan, cow's milk has either equal or higher levels of the other remaining amino acid profiles. Now, here's the most interesting part. Did you know that cow's milk contains 3 times more protein than mother's milk? Well, that's a fact. And also, the higher protein content in cow's milk overcompensates for certain essential amino acid content, delivering that much more amino acids to the infant, which is highly avoidable. So while mother's milk covers all amino acid needs, especially in threonine and tryptophan, without causing any protein overload, cow's milk falls short in the terms of tryptophan and oversupplies threonine as well as the branched chain amino acids. In terms of insulinogenic amino acids as well, while mother's milk has a 0% overdose, cow's milk delivers an overdose of anything from 100% to 200% for all parameters for valine, leucine, isoleucine and threonine. Cross-sectional study which was done in Germany reflected effectively that breastfeeding is associated with a lower prevalence of obesity in later life. The survey involved 1.3 lakh children who were divided into groups of breastfed and not breastfed. The instances of children who were never breastfed being overweight was 12.6% higher as against 9.2% in case of breastfed children. Instances of obesity were also higher in non-breastfed children, were 4.5% as against merely 2.8% in breastfed children. Furthermore, longer duration of breastfeeding was also associated with lower prevalence of later obesity, concluding that the more breastfed a child is, the lesser the risk of being overweight or obese. In short, we can say that the high quality of protein in the breast milk allows it to deliver the requisite with a lower protein quantity. According to the opinions of experts from the WHO, FAO as well as UNO, the content of amino acids in breast milk is the best estimate of infant amino acid requirements. Now moving on, if we compare the protein quality between cow's milk and mother's milk, we would also realize huge differences in terms of beta lactoglobulin. While mother's milk has 0%, cow's milk has 52% of it. While mother's milk has 36% of alpha lactalbumin, cow's milk has just 17%. In terms of glycomacropeptide as well, while mother's milk has a negligible percentage of it, cow's milk has 12% of glycomacropeptides. Just for your information, glycomacropeptides or GMPs are rich in branched chain amino acids and lack in tryptophan. Different concentrations of GMP in the diet would cause excessive weight gain. So the more the GMP, the higher the weight gain. So on one hand, we have clearly understood how mother's milk is the gold standard when it comes to protein. So the question now is what to advise parents if mother's milk is unavailable. What does one do? Well, one definitely needs to look for an infant formula that comes closest to resembling breast milk in quality, something that has a higher alpha-lactalbumin and tryptophan levels, as well as bring the amino acid profile closer to breast milk. So, the next time you find yourself in a situation in which you have to advise parents, especially in cases where mother's milk unfortunately is not available, you know what all to keep in mind and what all to advise the parents. We have had a wonderful talk today and I enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm sure you guys did it as well. Thank you. Bye.